Good afternoon, everyone. I am here to discuss about design thinking in education. Design thinking in education. As designers use particular ways of thinking to create innovative new products and design solutions to challenging problems. As educators, we can learn a lot from the way designers think. What is design thinking? It is a mindset and approach to learning, collaboration, and problem solving. In practice, the design process is a structured framework for identifying challenges, gathering information, generating potential solutions, refining ideas, and testing solutions. Design thinking can be flexibly implemented, serving equally well as a framework for a course design or a roadmap for an activity or group project. Design thinking is an approach. First and foremost, design thinking is a mindset and approach to learning, collaboration, and problem solving. Traditional academic teaching and learning is typically analytical and focused. Design thinking encourages learners to take an inquiry stance, think divergently, and develop reflexivity. The approach affirms empathy, curiosity, constructiveness, and continuous iteration. Design thinking is a process. The design process is a structured approach to identifying challenges, gathering information, generating potential solutions, refining ideas, and testing solutions. The process is circular by nature and demands iteration. Each stage in the process should be revisited and invoked throughout a learning experience to encourage experimentation, solution feasibility, and reflection. Design thinking is active. Design-based projects and curricula empower cross-disciplinary teams to explore new ideas, visit relevant people and places, and build and test physical solutions. Design thinking enables highly collaborative activities in and outside the classroom. Students are directly engaged in information gathering, knowledge generation, communication, and presentation. Design thinking is versatile. Design thinking remains equally impactful at the activity, project, course, or program scale. The design process can be employed in its entirety over several months or as a component of another methodology. Design thinking can be explored directly as an approach or in pursuit of other academic or collaborative work. The process also works well with external subjects or internally within the classroom setting. Why is design thinking important? It develops empathy and understands the needs of the people we are designing solutions for. It also defines the problems and opportunities for designing solutions. It generates and visualizes creative ideas. It develops prototypes, and it tests solutions and seeks feedback. Design thinking is one of the best tools we can give our students to ensure that they have creative confidence in their abilities to adapt and respond to new challenges. They are able to identify and develop innovative, creative solutions to problems they and others encounter, and to develop as optimistic, emphatic, and active members of society who can contribute to solving the complex challenges the world faces into the future. How will we teach design thinking? It should develop empathy, insights, and understanding. It should define a problem as an actionable question. It should generate and visualize ideas. It should develop prototypes. And it should evaluate and test their design solutions. This illustration shows the design thinking for schools. It involves the 5 steps: emphasize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. Let's go to the first step, empathize. The first stage of design thinking process is to gain an empathic understanding of the problem you are trying to solve. This involves consulting experts to find out more about the area of concern through observing, engaging, and empathizing with people to understand their experiences and motivations, as well as immersing yourself in the physical environment so you can gain a deeper personal understanding of the issues involved. Empathy is crucial to a human-centered design process, such as design thinking. And empathy allows design thinkers to set aside their own assumptions about the world in order to gain insight into users and their needs. Depending on time constraints, a substantial amount of information is gathered at this stage to use during the next stage and to develop the best possible understanding of the users, their needs, and the problems that underlie the development of that particular product. The next stage is define. During the define stage, you put together the information you have created and gathered during the empathize stage. This is where you will analyze your observations and synthesize them in order to define the core problems that you and your team have identified up to this point. You should seek to define the problem as a problem statement in a human-centered manner. The define stage will help the designers in your team gather great ideas to establish features, functions, and any other elements that will allow them to solve the problems, or at the very least, allow users to resolve issues themselves within the minimum of difficulty. In the define stage, you will start to progress to the third stage, which is ideate. Ideate. During the third stage of the design thinking process, the designers are ready to start generating ideas. You've grown to understand your users and their needs in the empathize stage, and you've analyzed and synthesized your observations in the define stage, and ended up with a human-centered problem statement. With this solid background, you and your team members can start to think outside of the box, to identify new solutions to the problem statement you've created. And you can start to look for alternative ways of viewing the problem. It is important to get as many ideas or problem solutions as possible at the beginning of the ideation phase. You should pick some other ideation techniques by the end of the ideation phase to help you investigate and test your ideas so you can find the best way to either solve a problem or improve the elements required to circumvent it. Next stage is prototype. The design team will now produce a number of inexpensive, scaled-down versions of the product or specific features found within the product, so they can investigate the problem solution generated in the previous stage. Prototypes may be shared and tested within the team itself, in other departments, or on a small group of people outside the design team. This is an experimental phase, and the aim is to identify the best possible solution for each of the problems identified during the first 3 stages. The solutions are implemented within the prototypes, and one by one, they are investigated and either accepted or improved and re-examined, or even rejected on the basis of the user's experiences. By the end of this stage, the design team will have a better idea of the constraints inherent to the product and the problems that are present, and have a clearer view of how real users will behave, think, and feel when interacting with the end product. Final stage is test. Designers or evaluators rigorously test the complete product using the best solutions identified during the prototyping phase. This is the final stage of the 5-stage model. But in an iterative process, the results generated during the testing phase are often used to redefine one or more problems and inform the understanding of the users, the conditions of use, how people think, behave, and feel, and to empathize. Even during this phase, alterations and redefinements are made in order to rule out problem solutions and derive as deep an understanding of the product and its users as possible. Design thinking as a non-linear process. We may have outlined a direct and linear design thinking process in which one stage seemingly leads to the next with a logical conclusion at user testing. However, in practice, the process is carried out in a more flexible and non-linear fashion. For example, different groups within the design team may conduct more than one stage concurrently, or the designers may collect information and prototype during the entire project so as to enable them to bring their ideas to life and visualize the problem solutions. It is important to note that the 5 stages are not always sequential. They do not have to follow any specific order, and they can often occur in parallel and be repeated iteratively. As such, the stages should be understood as different modes that contribute to a project, rather than sequential steps. However, the amazing thing about the 5-stage design thinking model is that it synthesizes and identifies the 5 stages or modes you would expect to carry out in a design project and in any innovative problem-solving project. Every project will involve activities specific to the product under development, but the central idea behind each stage remains the same. In essence, the design thinking process is iterative, flexible, and focused on collaboration between designers and users, with an emphasis on bringing ideas to life based on how real users think, feel, and behave. The design thinking label is not a myth. It is a description of the application of well-tried design process to new challenges and opportunities used by people from both design and non-design backgrounds. I welcome the recognition of the term and hope that its use continues to expand and be more universally understood so that eventually every leader knows how to use design and design thinking for innovation and better results. Said by Bill Morgridge, co-founder of IDEO.